So, hi guys, I am your reporter for today, and we will talk about the theories of personality, specifically the Klein object relation theories. So, first, let us know who is the person or the woman behind this theory. So, she is Melanie Klein. According to her, her theory is about the object related theory. So when we talk about object related theory, this refers about objects which are objects of the drive. So when we talk about drives, guys, these are the tension that you feel to yourself, such as sex drive, hunger drives, death drives, and many more. So Klein insisted that the infant's drives are directed to an object such as the breast. So there are overviews of object relation theory. So first, built on observations of young children. Second, infants' drives are driven by objects such as breast is prototype for later relations. And third is the role of fantasy in interpersonal relationship. So Klein said that the child's relation to the breast is fundamental and serves as prototype for later relations to whole objects such as the mother and the father. Kasi sabi niya, ang pinakaunang concern ng child is the breast because it gives everything to him or her since she or he was born. So, when we talk about drives, it is the tension that you feel to yourself, such as hunger, sex drive, or death drive, and madami pang iba. So, the drives has an object. So, object are what we get or use to relieve the tension of the drive. So, halimbawa guys, ang drive is hunger. So, what you need or what you will use is food para ma-relieve or ma-satisfied mo yung sarili mo. So, another example is when it comes to sex. So, the object is, one of these is the sexual intercourse. So, need mo din yan para relieve mo yung tension na nafe-feel mo sa sarili mo. So next, the biography of Melanie Klein. So she was born in Vienna, Austria in March 30, 1882. So she is youngest of the 4 children. She later married Arthur Klein at the age of 21 and had 3 children. Milita, who was born in 1904, Hans in 1907, and Erich born in 1914. So Milita is also a psychoanalyst, and Melanie Klein died in England in the year 1960. So next, she is best known for the play therapy and object relations. So she met Sándor Ferenczi in 1909. So Sándor Ferenczi, guys, is an Hungarian psychoanalyst and noted for his contributions to psychoanalytic with techniques of therapy. So, she read On Dreams in 1914. So, On Dreams is a book of Sigmund Freud. So, next, she became an analyst by being psychoanalyzed and through a study of psychoanalysis. So, she was the first in Freud's circle to psychoanalyze children directly. So the psychoanalysis of children was published in 1932. So next, we have the introduction to object relations theory. So object related theories is related to Freud's instinct theories but differs in 3 important ways. So, Klein insisted that her theory is related to Freud's instinct theory, but people or other psychoanalysts tell that it differs in 3 important ways. So, these are emphasizes consistent patterns of interpersonal relationships, stresses intimacy and nurturing, and lust relatedness as prime motive of human behavior. So there are two psychic of psychic life of the infant. So first, we have the fantasies. Infants possess an active fantasy life. So most basic fantasies are of what is good and bad. So fantasies may be used by psychoanalysts to mean an imaginative fulfillment or of frustrated wishes, conscious or unconscious. So example of this, guys, is a child who sucks its thumbs, enacting to fantasy of feeding. So next is we have the objects. Drives an object or object are interjected or taken into child's fantasy world and to have a life of their own. So ito na yung objects of the drive. So next we have the positions. So there are two positions, the paranoid schizoid position and depressive position. So when we said paranoid schizoid position, it organizing experiences in way that includes both feelings of persecution and splitting of internal and external objects into the good and bad. So schizoid was first described by Melanie Klein as the earliest experiences of the infant. So next is the depressive position. It is anxiety over losing a loved object and sense of guilt for wanting to destroy loved objects. So it is described by Melanie Klein to be normally first to experience toward the middle of the first year of life. So next we have the psychic defense mechanism. So there are four psychic defense mechanism: the introjection, projection, splitting, and projective identification. So when we talk about introjection, it occurs when a person internalizes the ideas or voices of other people, often external authorities. So when we talk about introjection, it is the behavior commonly associated with internalization of external authority, particularly the parents. So example of this is might be a dad telling his son that boys don't cry. So growing up, the child will internalize what his dad taught to him, and it might affect his way of thinking that boys never cries. So next is projection. It is a defense mechanism that involves talking your own unacceptable qualities or feelings and ascribing them to other people. So projection is a common form of projection occurs when an individual threatened by his own angry feelings accuses another of harboring hostile thoughts. So example of this is a wife attached to a male coworker but can't admit her feelings. So when her husband talks about a female coworker, she became jealous and accuses him of being attached to other women. So this is related to the quote that thinkers are doers. So next psychic defense is splitting. So splitting is a common ego defense mechanism. It can be defined as categorizing people or beliefs as either good or bad, positive or negative. So splitting is a psychological mechanism which allows the person to tolerate difficult and overwhelming emotion by seeing someone as either good or bad. So examples of this is news and history is either a complete fact or a complete lie. So last is the projective identification. Identification is a psychic defense mechanism whereby infants split off unacceptable parts of themselves, project them onto another project, and finally introject them in altered form. So it is a defensive mechanism which the individual projects quality that are unacceptable to the self onto to another person. So example of this is when someone believes that they are being persecuted, they may alter their behavior such as the way as to look suspicious in the presence of other people. So next, we have here the internalization. So internalization aspects of the external world that are organized internally into psychologically meaningful framework. So there are three internalizations: the ego, superego, and Oedipus complex. There are two Oedipus complex: the male Oedipal complex and female Oedipal complex. So next, the later view of object relation. So the Klein object relation has developed, and there are four or three later views: the Margaret Muller view, Haynes Kohut's view, and John Bowlby's view. So Margaret Muller's view observed infant or mother interaction during the first 3 years of infants' lives. So it is examined from security to autonomy. The children pass through a series of three major development stages. So these are normal autism, they birth through 3 to 4 weeks. Second is the normal symbiosis, the fourth week to fifth month. Next is the separation individuation, the 5th to 36th month of the child. So next is the Haynes Kohut's view. So it emphasized the process of development of self in caring for infants. Physical and psychological needs adults or self-objects treats them as if they had a sense of self. So self is the center of individual psychological universe. Early self is characterized by two narcissistic needs. So there are two narcissistic needs. It is the to exhibit the grandiose self and to acquire the idealized image of the parents. So next is the John Bowlby's view. It tries to integrate the evolutionary theory. The child was the starting point by studying human through other primate infants. He observed the three stages of separation anxiety. So the three stages are the protest, despair, and detachment. So two fundamental assumptions: the caregiver must create a secure base of the child, and bonding relationship becomes internalized and acts as model for future relationship. So meron pang isa na later views. The Mary Ainsworth was influenced by the Bowlby's views. So it developed strange situation technique for measuring attachment style and found three basic style, which are the secure, anxious resistant, and anxious avoidant. So psychotherapy, when we talk about psychotherapy, it's Klein thought that children should be psychoanalyzed and substitute by play therapy for dream work. Goal of Kleinian psychotherapy is to reduce depressive anxieties and persecutory fears, and to lessen the harshness of internalized objects. So there are critiques of object relation theory. So first is the attachment theory, high on practically internal consistency and falsifiability. falsifiability. So when we talk about falsifiability, guys, it is able to be proven false. So moderate on generating research and low on parsimony, particularly the Kleinian theory and organizing knowledge. So there are concepts of humanity, that determinism over free choice, equal emphasis on optimism and pessimism, causality over teleology, unconscious over conscious, social determinants over biology, and similarity over uniqueness. So that's the end of my report. Thank you.